Good morning and welcome to the Daily Brief on BigHeart 92.1 FM Asaba, the station that beats for you. I am Marvellous Akpenyi, and for the next 25 minutes, we'll be taking you through Nigeria's biggest stories, and these are stories that made the front pages of today's papers, and then we'll let you know how the stories could affect you and I. So today's paper, for today's paper review, we'll be taking a look at The Guardian, The Punch, Vanguard, and The Nation newspaper. All right, so stick with me and let's get the ball rolling. So this morning, we'll be beginning first with The Guardian newspaper. And on The Guardian this morning, we have Oshu Guba polls credibility doubts heighten over worsening violent and stolen PVCs. Oshu Guba polls credibility doubts heighten over worsening violent and stolen PVCs. You can find that story on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. And also we have federal government begins 70 billion naira debt payment to petrol marketers as prices crash to $88 per barrel. Just last week we talked about the petrol price going to $100 per barrel, but today it's crashed to $88 per barrel. And we have resident doctors strike disrupts healthcare services at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, Luth. Resident doctors strike disrupts healthcare services at Luth, and that's on page 3 of The Guardian. Also, auctioneers fault EFCC's e-auction process. Auctioneers fault EFCC's e-auction process. That's on the news page 7 of The Guardian newspaper. Investors gain 74.1 trillion naira in 1 year as market value surges by 87%. Investors gain 74.1 trillion naira in 1 year as market value surges by 87%. You can find that on the business page 15 of The Guardian. Necessity of Nigeria's response to xenophobia in South Africa. Necessity of Nigeria's response to xenophobia in South Africa. That's on the editorial page 12 of The Guardian newspaper. Also on The Guardian, we have PFIPC scandal. PFIPC scandal. House orders IGP to produce fake DG. Uncovers 29 suspected forged documents. PFIPC scandal. House orders IGP to produce fake DG. Uncovers 29 suspected forged documents. And you can find that on page 6. That's on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. Also, Ondo lawmakers accuse Ayedatiwa of meddling in assembly crisis. Ondo lawmakers accuse Ayedatiwa of meddling in assembly crisis. You can find that on the news page 5 of The Guardian newspaper. Atiku Sokapu demand federal government's action as gunmen kill 30 in fresh Kaduna attack. Atiku Sokapu demand federal government's action as gunmen kill 30 in fresh Kaduna attack. That's on page 30 of The Guardian newspaper. 176 war victims still in captivity as security operatives neutralize over 40 bandits in Katsina. 176 war victims still in captivity as security operatives neutralize over 40 bandits in Katsina. All right, and that's it on The Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's move on to the next paper for today. We have The Nation. The Nation says 29 forged documents by fake agency uncovered by panel. 29 forged documents by fake agency uncovered by panel. And we have AGF letter. The AGF says letter to Aso Villa hijacked. Adeyemi, 13 civil servants expected tomorrow. AGF, letter to Aston Villa hijacked, Adeyemi and 13 civil servants expected tomorrow. And also we have there, we are avoiding a situation where the police will be pushed into making statements that could undermine their ongoing investigations. All right, that's still on 29 forged documents by fake agency uncovered by panel. Moving on, we have federal government, 98 Nigerians killed in South Africa within 4 years. Federal government says 98 Nigerians were killed in South Africa within 4 years. And that's on page 2. It says Minister of State in tough talk with Ramaphosa's envoy in Abuja. Minister of State in tough talk with Ramaphosa's envoy in Abuja. Also, we have Oduyoyi quits Makinde's advisory council. Oduyoyi quits Makinde's advisory council. On page 3, you can find that story. Lawmakers insist Ondo Speaker must go. Lawmakers insist Ondo Speaker must go. And that's on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. And still on, we have Presidency, Oshiomhole Chideobi for attacking Tinubu. Presidency, Oshiomhole chides Obi for attacking Tinubu. Presidency, Oshiomhole chide Obi for attacking Tinubu. That's on the news page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Many killed in southern Kaduna attacks. Go after assailants. Many killed in southern Kaduna attacks. And it says go after assailants. That's on the news page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Over 40 bandits killed as troops repel attack in Katsina. Over 40 bandits killed as troops repel attack in Katsina. And that's on page 3. Now women rule in the judiciary. Now women rule in the judiciary. That's on the law section, pages 13 to 16 of the Nation newspaper. All right, and that's it on the Nation newspaper. Now let's move on to the Punch. The Punch here has the headline: Fake Agency Probe, House Faces Pressure to Summon Gbajabiamila. Fake Agency Probe, House Faces Pressure to Summon Gbajabiamila. Reps order IGP to produce controversial DG Adeyemi within 48 hours. Reps order IGP to produce controversial DG Adeyemi within 48 hours. Calls grow to invite COS Akume over 400 million naira bribery claim and others. Calls grow to invite COS Akume over 400 million naira bribery claim and others. No funds released despite approvals, Accountant General tells representatives. No funds released despite approvals, Accountant General tells the House of Representatives. And we have 30 killed, houses burned in fresh Kaduna terror attack. 30 killed, houses burned in fresh Kaduna terror attack. And then still on the Punch, xenophobia, minister meets South African envoy after Tinubu snub. Xenophobia, minister meets South African envoy after Tinubu snub, and that's on page 7. Senate defense bus preaching bill amid public backlash. Senate defense bus preaching bill amid public backlash. Yeah, there's been so much backlash regarding that one. The Senate had proposed that there should be a ban on public bus preaching. So when you're in a bus or vehicle, preachers should not be allowed to preach or minister or pray. And it received a lot of backlash from Nigerians on social media, but the Senate, they've continued to defend the bill against public preaching, against bus preaching particularly. Obi Kwankwaso ticket sparks fresh NNPC NDC showdown. Obi Kwankwaso ticket sparks fresh NNPP NDC showdown, and that's on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Also, 2 killed, 3 rescued in Anambra students' hostel collapse. 2 killed, 3 rescued in Anambra students' hostel collapse. And that's on the Nation newspaper this morning. On the Punch, beg your pardon. Also, Speaker's impeachment. Ondo lawmakers issue fresh ultimatum, accuse Ayedatiwa. Speaker's impeachment. Lawmakers issue fresh ultimatum, accuse Ayedatiwa. You can find that on page 29 of the Punch. Nigerian woman dies of cardiac arrest during UK visit. Nigerian woman dies of cardiac arrest during UK visit, and that's on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch. 5.7 billion naira probe. Court adjourns trial of ex-Kwara governor and commissioner. 5.7 billion naira probe. Court adjourns trial of ex-Kwara governor and commissioner. You can find that on page 29 of the Punch newspaper. Alright, and finally the Vanguard newspaper. How PFIPC was created. That's coming from the Accountant General. How PFIPC was created. Reps summon Adeyemi, order IGP to produce him tomorrow. Reps order IGP to produce Adeyemi tomorrow. That's on the news, page 5. And also on the Vanguard, we have sugar. Nigeria risks losing African market over high production cost. Sugar. Nigeria risks losing African market over high production cost. That's on page 20 of the Vanguard. And then also we have new minimum wage, 70,000 naira, now poverty pay. That's coming from the Nigerian Labour Congress. New minimum wage, 70,000 naira, now poverty pay. That's on the NLC, and it's on page 8. Tinubu to announce fresh pay increase for soldiers soon. That's from the Defense Minister. Tinubu to announce fresh pay increase for soldiers soon, and that's on page 26 of the Vanguard. Also, candidates upload APC, PDP, ADC, others didn't meet INEC July 11 deadline. That's coming from a source, and you can find that on page 9. Candidates upload APC, PDP, ADC, others didn't meet INEC deadline of July 11. Kwara APC stronger, ready for 2027 victory. Kwara APC stronger and ready for 2027 victory, and that's on page 29, and that's coming from Abdul Razak. Xenophobia. Tinubu snubs Ramaphosa's envoy as federal government demands early warning pact ratification. Xenophobia. Tinubu snubs Ramaphosa's envoy as federal government demands early warning pact ratification, and that's on page 8. ADC raises alarm over intimidation of opposition parties in Rivers. ADC raises alarm over intimidation of opposition parties in Rivers, and that's on page 14. Also, students, others feared dead as hostel collapses in Anambra. Students, others feared dead as hostel collapses in Anambra. 30 killed in southern Kaduna as residents flee Chawai. 30 killed in southern Kaduna as residents flee Chawai. Alright, that's all we'll be taking from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. This morning we still had on the papers the PFIPC making so much headlines as we saw that the House of Representatives has summoned the Accountant General. We have that on both the Punch, Vanguard and the Nation newspaper, and they focused heavily on the investigation surrounding the presidential foreign investment and Promotion Council, PFIPC. And it says House faces pressure to summon Accountant General, and 29 suspected forged documents uncovered. House orders the Inspector General of Police to produce the agency's Director General. So the National Assembly is, of course, exercising its oversight powers to determine whether government procedures were followed correctly. So if public documents were truly forged, then that would raise serious legal and administrative concerns. However, investigations are still ongoing, and on the side of us, the public, we have our fingers crossed and waiting for transparency, and we're hoping that everyone involved gets a fair hearing so that we understand exactly what went down. And then we had a really devastating story this morning. That's the report of the fresh Kaduna killings. Several newspapers reported another deadly attack in Kaduna State, the southern Kaduna. We saw 30 killed, many fear dead, communities attacked, and sadly, insecurity remains one of Nigeria's biggest challenges. And from this fresh attack now, you're going to see that so many things are going to emanate from this. We'll have families displaced, children orphaned, livelihoods destroyed. And beyond condemnation, citizens, we expect a practical solution. We expect better intelligence gathering. We expect improved community policing, quicker emergency responses, protection for these vulnerable communities. A whole lot has been going on, and it seems that the security is not being taken that seriously, and it shouldn't just be a mere campaign promise, because now it's become every person vying for a position of office in Nigeria comes to assure us of security, making our lives better. It's now become an ordinary campaign promise, because as soon as they get into power, we see little to no change, if I can say that. Security is very important to every nation. It's the foundation upon which our education, our businesses, and even our overall development depends. So I think it should be taken very seriously. Okay, so we got the report also of Nigeria and South Africa diplomatic engagement, where it was said that the president had snubbed Ramaphosa's envoy, so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had to be the ones to attend to Ramaphosa's envoy. We've had repeated attacks, and then according to the report, over 90 Nigerians living in South Africa has lost their lives, and it's really sad. And then we do hope that we just find a way to settle all of this. It's just one Africa. We should say no to xenophobia. We should end the hate, find a way to just make things better. Repeated attack on foreign nationals, it's strained the relationship between these countries over the years. So diplomatic dialogue is really important, if you ask me. And then also we got the report of resident doctors strike disrupting healthcare at the Lagos State University teaching hospital, and the industrial action by the resident doctors will definitely affect the healthcare system. And then we cannot say that our healthcare system is already at the best level. So when the doctors are also going on strike, what then could come out of that? We have to find a way to make sure that doctors can work effectively and patients receive uninterrupted care, which is the most important right now. And then also the federal government announced that they had begun debt payment to petrol marketers. The Guardian reported this, and then it says the government has begun settling debt owed to petrol marketers as global crude oil prices continue to fluctuate. Just last week it was at $100 per barrel, and today is at $88 per barrel. And then payment of outstanding debt may improve fuel supply generally in the country. However, consumers will ultimately judge the impact by what happens at filling stations. It's not enough to be on the papers. What happens at the filling stations, the petrol prices at the filling stations now cheaper. Has distribution improved, and are prices stabilizing, and houses and businesses, are they experiencing any form of relief as a result of these? These are the big questions that needs answers. Well, it's 27 minutes past 8 a.m. and that's how we end today's edition of the Daily Brief on Big Heart 92.1 FM Asaba, the only station that beats for you. Thank you for spending part of your morning with me today, and I am Marvellous Akpenyi. As usual, more music will be coming your way this morning. Please stay with us.